all of us clap
at the same time, yeah. So, 1, 2, 3.
I wasn't ready.
Let's try that again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, all right. We're off to a great start.
This is Identity at the Center. If it has anything to do with IAM, this is the go-to podcast. Now your hosts, Jim McDonald and Jeff Steadman.
Welcome to the Identity at the Center podcast. I'm Jeff and that's Jim. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Oh, not too bad. Yourself?
Doing great. All right, I've got a list of things that I want to talk about.
Is this like a Festivus thing?
No, it's been great being at Identiverse, seeing so many old friends, but meeting new friends. Here's things that people have come up and talked to me about. Number one, so many people who are listening to the podcast are here, people I haven't met and listen all the time, so, just coming up and introducing themselves. Number two was my jacket that I was wearing yesterday.
You had a jacket. Yes.
I'd like to put a link to the jacket in the show notes. Is that possible?
I mean, what do you mean?
Like, so if somebody else wants to buy it, they can.
Like that jacket, or are you like?
No, I'm not reselling it.
Okay.
But if somebody wants to buy it, the same jacket.
I was concerned you might start like selling your bathwater or something.
No, but in the same vein, I guess. No, like one of the main things people remember about the podcast is what I said about the Atlanta airport.
Yeah.
Smelling like an open bathroom.
I did not smell like that when I traveled through that.
You probably weren't in the part that I was in.
Maybe it was you.
People really liked that. They thought it was hilarious.
Okay. Well, good. We were able to solve that dilemma. Atlanta, you smell great. Like and subscribe. Why don't we get to it? Before we do that, I want to shout out to RSM, Cyber Risk Alliance. They're the ones that are making all this possible. They've got this extravagant room for us to be able to record in, and RSM for bringing us out here. I have found a lot of people don't really know that we work for RSM.
Yeah.
So like, a lot of people are like, oh, I thought you just did the podcast. Like, I wish, but no. No, we work for RSM. So, but we do a good job of trying to keep it separate. This is vendor neutral. We don't do commercials, that kind of thing. So why don't we get right to it? We've got a very big panel here. Probably the largest show we've ever done, I believe. We've got directors for the Digital Identity Advancement Foundation, DIAF.link. We've got Ian Glazer, Arynn Crow, and Allan Foster. Welcome, guys. And then we've got the Kim Cameron Award winners. We've got Sophie Bennani-Taylor and Matthew Spence. Welcome, everybody, to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
Thanks for taking the time. We're going to get to you guys in a second. And really the focus of the show is we're going to be kind of on your guys' journey to get here. But to set the stage, let's talk about the Digital Identity Advancement Foundation. Why don't we just start with what is the Digital Identity Foundation? Ian, you want to take the crack?
Sure. So thanks for having us. It means a lot. The support is really great. So DIAF is a Digital Identity Advancement Foundation. It's a 501c3 nonprofit focused on creating more opportunities for people globally to study and learn and explore digital identity. Primarily, at least to start, the way we're doing that is through the removal of financial barriers. So being able to bring people to industry events that they normally wouldn't be able to otherwise.
That's a great mission. I love it. I want to find out more about how we can contribute. Al, I'm going to go to you next. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
And we are recording live, so we're going to come in. There's our friend Dave. Hey, Dave. So, Alan, how do people contribute to DIAF?
Well, basically get hold of us and give us money. And there's ways to do that. So we've got a link. If you go to diaf.link/donate, it brings up a web page and we can get some money in that way. Also, if you have other ideas or other ways you want to be able to do it, you can always send us an email. And then we probably put the email address into the notes underneath because it's a nice long one. Turns out all of the identity domain names were sort of gone.
You're trying to buy anything digital identity? No, like fork over all your money.
But we do have an email address that folks can send in questions or comments or ideas for other awards and things like that. And obviously the donate link up on the website is probably the easiest way to get into that.
Alan, is there a minimum donation?
Oh, great question.
We haven't gotten there yet. I mean, everything works, right? And everything helps. Obviously, too small of a donation becomes.
Well, if someone would do $10 or something, they could do that.
That's great.
That's great. Yeah,
That's great.
Okay.
Arynn, what's the Kim Cameron Award? What does this say?
So the Kim Cameron Award is one of our 2 awards, and specifically designed to help people that are newer in their careers, or maybe discovering identity at a later stage in their careers, have access to great events like these at Identiverse, which are foundational for so many people's professional networks that they build, as well as skill building, access to a lot of other great resources here. But as Ian mentioned, these expenses can be quite costly, especially for folks that maybe they haven't landed their first job yet, or they're in their first year. Maybe they're at a company that isn't sponsoring them to go. So the Kim Cameron Award is designed to remove the barriers so that more people can come and access these great resources.
And this is the first of these awards, or has there been one? Was there one last
Well,
year?
so OpenID Foundation about 3 years ago created the award. Yeah, it would have been about 3 years ago. And so they originally incubated this award in Kim's memory because he was such a big part of OpenID Foundation and his work. Last summer, the then executive director, Don Tebow, approached Allan and I and said, hey, we want a proper home for this thing, right? Like OpenID Foundation's got a whole different mission. We love doing this, but it's not our focus. And so Allan and I started talking to a bunch of other organizations like Arynn Crow and WID and Kantara, trying to figure out like what was the best way to structure this. And out of that, we decided to create a new nonprofit charity, which is what we did. And so this is the first year that DIAF has been operating the award, and looking forward to many years to come.
That's excellent.
I think that, Kim Cameron was just such a legend within this space. I know that term gets overused sometimes, but I remember my first identity conference was the Digital ID World Conference, and that was like 2005 when he came. He just moved to Microsoft and just published the laws of identity, and it was like, I mean, I look at the laws of identity every couple of years just to, get blown away by how relevant they still are. I mean, the guy was way ahead of the rest of us.
Yep.
I look at those laws every couple of years too, just in case there's a quiz, right? I just want to make sure. That, no, I know, it's cool. Don't revoke my card.
Do we need to update those laws with AI now?
Not with AI, no.
Somebody starts writing, it's like, I'm going to take one of these here.
Although it is, as you say, we're looking at it 15 years later, and it's still very relevant for each and every one of the laws. It's still what we need to be able to look at. And so it is amazing how relevant they have stayed all throughout the 15, 20 years we've been working within the space.
Yeah, absolutely. So the focus of the episode is to talk to Matt and Sophie, and I'd like to kind of start with, what's your origin story? How did you find yourself pursuing a career, a degree in cybersecurity, and hopefully a career in digital identity?
So I started out studying cybersecurity in university. I went to Texas A&M and was heavily involved in the burgeoning, at the time, cybersecurity program there. And one summer, I was an intern working in a security operations center and got really bored because I was waiting on the engineering team to get me like an API from an internal tool for like a month. And so I just started like researching cool things about security, and the one that stuck with me immediately was identity. So I kind of just was fascinated from there and ended up working at a digital identity startup called Arynn, and eventually found my way into the United States Senate as a technology policy advisor, which was quite a journey.
Yeah, definitely want to hear more about that. Sophie, how about you?
Yeah, so I fell into digital identity kind of by accident, which since being here I found out is a very common journey. So I was working at a tech consultancy doing digital ethics consulting in a practice that I helped co-found. And the company mentioned that they were kind of interested in this thing called digital identity. And I had the complete luxury of just having like several weeks, not over a month, just to kind of spend all my time figuring out like what it was, what standards were happening, what the regulation was, what kind of national case studies were looking like. And yeah, I was just completely hooked. I couldn't believe there was something I didn't know about before. So since then, I've spent pretty much all my time kind of researching around this area of digital ID.
That's awesome. And so now you're here at Identiverse, one of the biggest conferences within the industry. Wondering what kind of experience have you had so far on starting?
Surprising, welcoming. It's a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be, which has been awesome to see, and just the amazing degree to which this is such a welcoming community. Everybody's super nice. We're getting invited to things. People that we've never met before are just coming up and talking to us, and they're telling us all these things and giving us so much awesome information. It's been really great.
Have you picked up any of the swag? Have you gotten any of the giveaways at the booths?
So I actually won. There's the scratch off card.
What?
So
I
yeah.
thought they were all losers.
No, I actually got hats. And so yeah, I still need to pick that up. But my scratch off card was a winner, and then I will admit to doing a little bit of swag hunting on the expo floor.
Okay, did you get anything really memorable?
Some good T-shirts and I think a pair of socks.
Yeah, from what I hear, there's some Vans sneakers floating out there. So
I might have to
Only
invest.
swag that I picked up. I couldn't resist.
You can't resist.
Enrique talked me into that one for sure.
I have a collection of conference swag, so
okay, yeah, I mean it's a life's journey, and eventually you get to the point where you go to conferences and you don't want any of it. But Sophie, how have you enjoyed the conference so far?
Yeah, I have to echo Matt. It's been so welcoming, and from the start, like it's a bit intimidating coming into such a big space, not really knowing many people at all, but it's just been such a friendly community. And I've really enjoyed the mix of having the kind of big stage keynotes, which are really exciting and kind of think a lot about the future and the big picture, and then these more intimate conversations about the kind of day-to-day and what people are doing on the ground.
It's amazing how deep they get sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You swag hunting as well?
I am swag hunting, but now I'm finding out I'm not being that successful. So yesterday,
Come on, after this, we're gonna go swag hunting.
well, yesterday I picked up a bag of coffee, which I thought was like the best swag, and I smelled like coffee all day. But now I know there's Vans.
Yeah, Vans,
to go
yeah.
look for those.
So the important thing is, did you leave space to bring this stuff home?
A little.
That's the rookie mistake, right? You collect all the swag and then all of a sudden, you're that person in the airport that has like the duct tape around their suitcase trying to like get it all into the overhead that clearly is not gonna fit, so.
that might end up being me.
What's been the most impactful or I guess important thing you want to take away that you've heard throughout this entire conference so far? So let's stick with you.
Yeah, I found, for me, I don't come from a kind of cybersecurity background at all. I've thought a lot more about digital identity as a form of enablement, particularly in the kind of international development sector. So it's been really interesting to learn more about the relationship between enablement and security and how you can make sure that people can access what they need to access, perhaps things they've never accessed before, but in a way that really protects them and protects the organization that's doing that so that it can be more sustainable. So yeah, that's been a really useful entry point for me.
So someone who wasn't in digital identity and now you are,
Mm-hmm.
what did you think digital identity was before you attended this or got more involved with digital identity?
I mean, before I knew about what it was, I think I really had no idea, and it's been interesting. I did a research sprint 2 years ago now, I think, with the Berkman Klein Center at Harvard. And there were conversations around, how you present yourself online, what information you share, what photos you have, and there can be this really philosophical view of what digital identity is. And I think that's still true, but there are also kind of much more grounded ways of thinking about it and what kind of innovations can come about to make sure that kind of verified, trusted information can be shared in a really secure way. So I think relating those different levels is kind of a useful thing to get from this.
Matt, what's something that's really impacted you this week?
I think listening to some of the talks, especially those that are about the direct impact and kind of the customer journeys that people go through with deploying some digital identity technology has been really impactful. I'm a technical guy, software engineer, cybersecurity analyst. It's really easy for me to get bogged down in the details of the implementation and lose focus on the people that are at the end of the products and the services. So I think that's helped to really ground my understanding of why we do all of this, which is something that, in the back of my mind is always there. It's kind of why I'm interested in this. But again, it's so easy to get, I'm a nerd, right? I really like the technical stuff. It's just so easy to lose sight of what this is all for. And so some of that has been I think, very impactful.
I think as were the award recipients for the Kim Cameron Award. And I'm wondering, and that will start with you, how did you hear about the award and what was the submission process? And I'm hoping you can kind of get detailed enough so that other folks figure out, okay, here's how I go about something like this.
So in my case, like any good former congressional staffer, I have a crippling Twitter addiction. And so I heard about it because from some of my previous work in digital identity, I was up at the edge of a lot of those circles. And so it popped across my Twitter feed one day, and I just clicked the link, and I was I switched to X now, yeah. So I will always be calling it Twitter though. And I would just say that the application process was very, I think, straightforward. If you can find the link, you have all the resources that you really need. It's more about understanding what to put into the submission, talking about your journey, and really what you'll get out of the award.
Great. Same question to you, Sophie.
Yeah, so most of the time I'm a PhD student focusing on digital ID, but part-time I also work with OIX, Open Identity Exchange. And part of that job is kind of scouring the news for what's happening in digital ID every day. So really luckily doing that meant that I also found out about this award. So similarly, I think I'd recommend just like having a list of accounts or people whose work you were inspired by to follow and look at on a regular basis. So yeah, kind of stumbled across it, but kind of by immersing myself in that space. And similarly, I think it was quite an easy process. Like Matt, I also thought a lot about not only why I want to go, but what I can do with this. I mean, it's a huge privilege to get to come here. So thinking about what we can do with this and get more people excited.
Right. Absolutely. So Matt, you had mentioned about this Senate fellowship. I'd like to dig into that a little bit more, maybe get more of an explanation. What was that all about? That sounds pretty unique.
Yeah, so going from a software engineer straight into being a policy advisor in the Senate is not a very typical journey. And I came into that through a nonprofit program called Tech Congress that places early and mid-career technologists in the United States Congress for anywhere from about 8 months to a year to help fill the knowledge gap that exists, because a lot of the Congress is very old, a lot of them have technology backgrounds, and not a lot of their staffers have technology backgrounds either. A lot of the staff tends to be people who are or have studied law and things like that, which is very useful, but when you're dealing with technology, there's no substitute for that real world expertise.
Sure.
And I wanted to try to address some of the barriers to digital identity adoption that come through the policy side. So that was kind of why I took that journey.
Very good. Very unique.
And also, I should say, Tech Congress opens up for applications at techcongress.io on a regular basis, I think twice a year. Not as much this year because it's an election year, and that ends up being really weird if they put a fellowship. If your fellowship extends to the middle of an election, you could lose your job halfway through, which is not ideal. But starting next year, they'll be doing those applications again regularly, and anybody with any kind of a technology background can be there. It's a direct path to have a really big impact.
Yeah, what I think is really cool about the whole thing is, so my son is a cyber major, freshman, just finished his freshman year, and it feels like, going from an engineering background, you kind of feel like just like a regular person. Now all of a sudden you're in the Senate fellowship. That's a pretty cool experience, right? It
is, and what's cool about it is that it's crazy and it's wild, and that you learn so much, but it's also Tech Congress. There are lots of fellowship programs actually for people of different backgrounds to get involved in policy, but Tech Congress I think is a great one because they prepare you so well. You don't have to have any policy knowledge, any knowledge of how the US government works. They'll teach you all of it for a month or two, like a boot camp style. And then you'll go in and you'll actually be more prepared than just about any staffer, because one of the other things is that most congressional staffers get zero training going in. You actually do get 2 months, so you actually come in as one of the best prepared people, even if you have zero policy background at first.
That's cool. Now, Sophie, for somebody like my son, freshman, has this much cybersecurity knowledge now, because it's like you're still getting your ABCs in place, you know, your intro to writing, your algebra course, and then you have one cyber class. What kind of recommendations would you have for somebody in that point in the journey? Because it seems to me like you kind of become like the superstar student, if you will.
Thank you, that's really kind. I think just kind of making the most of the resources. Loads of people in the identity space have really great blogs that you can read on a regular basis.
Yeah, podcast.
Listening to the podcast, I was going to say. I was going to say that up front. YouTube videos can be great. I mean, really just immersing yourself and perhaps also getting a sense of which part of the space really interests you. I think it's useful to kind of become an expert in a particular area, and I think that's the case for any domain, but it's really easy to do that, and the more you learn about the sector, the more you'll realise kind of what really suits your skill set and your interests and things like that.
Awesome.
I was reading through your bio, and it mentioned that you pursued a master's in digital sociology.
I did, yes.
What the heck is that?
I think I know less what that is now than I did before I did.
Okay.
So it's kind of a new discipline. The master's I did has only existed for about 5 years. And it's really kind of trying to get a sense of what's happening in the digital world through a sociological perspective and how it's reshaping relationships between different people, communities, people and their governments. And so actually for someone interested in digital ID, it's quite an obvious space to go into. Because digital ID, I think, is really all about relations and trust. And so a sociological perspective is really helpful for that.
Very interesting. Arynn, I want to come back to you for a second because we've got 2 award winners here, and they talk about their submission process. And I guess maybe open question, we'll start here. What is the DIAF looking for in submissions? How do we help people fulfill their dreams of being not only at Identiverse and other conferences, but maybe even someday on the Identity Center podcast?
That's big time.
Yeah, I think I was really happy to hear, reflecting on like, what is it that you want to get out of the conference? Because that was specifically one of the things that we wanted to assess is, does somebody have a really specific goal where they want to attend that we can help them achieve through sponsoring and supporting their access to these events? Some of the other things that we look at just on a more like tactical basis is like, what is the time of experience that they've had with identity? Are they totally new to the topic? Are they students? Are they advanced grads? Are they people that have been in the profession for a couple of different years? So we can kind of assess, where they are, and relatively speaking, like what is the benefit, both that they can bring into the award through their determination and their skills that they want to build on, and what we can return to them by offering them the resources to go. You have anything to add to that, Allan or Ian?
No, I mean, we were looking at what could they bring, and did they have sort of an opinion about what they wanted to learn? And so we thought about impact, and we thought about the problems that they were interested in. And we had dozens and dozens of applicants, and it was fascinating just to see how mature a lot of this was, right? And I was thinking about myself at a similar age. I was like, I like macaroni. It was probably the best thing I could write in a
But you still
response.
like macaroni.
I do, yeah, actually, yeah, it came up last night. But to see like really very specific, sort of like, I am interested in these real specific topics, and this is what I want to do with it, like, that blew me away, because I was just getting into identity at that point, and I was doing it through a product, right? So to see someone already having like well thought out opinions about it was really encouraging for all of us, right? Because we need more global talent in this space.
Can I add one other thing to that? I knew that it was going to be difficult to pick just as few winners as we could in this first year that we were doing this when I saw how many applications we got, but I didn't appreciate how difficult it was going to be until I started reading the applications, because we had so many high quality applications. There were so many that I was like, I wish that we could send more folks this year.
Which is why, if you're listening, you should contribute, because we can. Like, really, this is about outcomes. When we talk about organizations who are thinking about sponsoring, it's what this means. Every dollar means we are closer to bringing one more person to an event. Or as we start to get into other programs, being able to bring one more participant into that. And that's really gratifying to be able to say, like, oh, wow, this year we are bringing someone, not only 2 people to Identiverse, 2 to EIC next week, and then 1 to authenticate. So we've actually started to grow the applicant pool, grow the winner pool. We only want that to continue.
Well, thank you to you guys for starting this and donating. I'm sure there's so many hours that go into it. So I know doing a 1 hour podcast is like 10 hours of work on the back end. So I can appreciate.
So,
And it's fun, right? When else can you get up at 7 o'clock in the morning every week for Zoom calls?
well, I think it's just part of the culture right now.
Yeah.
We're a global economy, we're global organizations. Identity doesn't stop at 9 o'clock and 9 to 5. We work 9 to 5 hours, right? So.
Wait, you don't log in?
I'm not saying me personally.
Okay.
Right?
I think I'm just adding a little bit more about in the selection process. That one of the things that I was looking for was this is a community to get involved in, and so the responses that come back, it's not so much attending, it's is this person coming in to get involved? Because if they're involved, then they're going to be part of the engine to move forward into the next one. So that involvement, I think, is an important piece.
I'm pretty sure all of you have been to Vegas, because I think I've seen you here. Have you guys been to Vegas before?
Not since I was like a small child.
Okay, so let's get into this. What do we think of Vegas?
I was talking about this yesterday and realized Vegas, so I live in Oxford. Vegas is like the exact opposite of Oxford. So it's a very crazy place. It's quite fascinating. Like, obviously it's kind of, I'm spending most of my time at the conference, but like, I feel so lucky to also be able to see this like completely different environment to what I know. Yeah, just like lots of showbiz and
It's as
big
if like a theme
things.
park became a city. Is there a favorite thing that you've seen that it's not Identiverse related or experienced?
Yesterday I went to the Bellagio and saw the fountain show, which was really cool, and the botanical gardens, and yeah, I mean it's spectacular. It's really cool to see.
Matthew, what do you think?
Vegas is wild. It's a city of so much contrast where you've got all these fountains and these fancy hotels and everything, and on the strip right there, and then you go a little outside and you're in the desert. I think there's a lot that I want to see here. I went on a run down the strip, and it's like there's just too much to kind of take in the short amount of time that we have.
Would you come back?
I think I would come back. I want to bring my wife at some point. I don't think she's ever been to Vegas. I think it's the kind of thing you need to do at least once. And I think it would be fun to get a trip with friends, but I don't have to be quite so professional.
Sophie, would you come back?
I think me too, yeah. I mean, the weather here is amazing. I know a lot of people complain about the heat, but I'm a bit jealous because it rains a lot where I'm from. So, yeah, getting to kind of see more of that and more of, I mean, I think you could just sit and people watch for like a week and it would be fascinating.
It's world class here. One of my favorite things to do. The weather, not so much. I like to sit inside. I'm more of an indoor cat. I like air conditioning. But if there's a window that I can watch the strip and different things happening, yeah, for sure. You guys were talking about an escape room, and I'm fascinated by escape. I've never actually done one, but I think there was one that took place last night. Was it an idea for, I know, Ian, I'm an indoor cat.
Yeah, but the escape room is literally like you're indoors. Oh, but you never want to escape out. Yeah, okay.
I guess tell us about the escape room. Like, what was this about? Why should I, who's never done one, would you recommend it? Give me some insight.
Yeah, so we got invited by Sarah Cicchetti to go do an escape room with a bunch of other people, attendees here at Identiverse. We loaded into a party bus, which I've also never gone on a party bus before, which was fun, and we piled into this escape room, and it was competitive, so it was 2 teams. And we were all very sure that Sarah's team was going to win because she's does a lot of escape rooms. But actually, her team lost by innocent margins because the team I was on, which was the other one, at the end just started brute forcing all of the clues. And so the last 2 or 3 in a row, we got halfway in and we're okay, there's only 32 possible combinations left, let's just try them all. So then we got it with it was an hour long. We got it, we had 57 minutes that it took. So we only just barely finished.
But you finished, and you applied real world attack.
I was going to say, it's credential stuffing. This is what I learned.
Yeah, I learned. And there was actually a lot of math involved too. At one point, I was literally on a lock counting in binary. because it's like we knew that the combination was one of two things, and so I was just going ones and zeros, just up until, and I got so close to getting that one right, and I gave up literally 3 before I would have finished it.
Tell me that you're perfect for identity without telling me you're perfect for identity. Nailed it. Nailed it.
It's gonna be probably our promo for this. Sophie, what was your experience like?
Yeah, it was super fun. Like the theme was 1940s casino, which was very apt for Vegas.
So smoke-filled and holes in the desert.
Yeah, escaped convicts and all this kind of wanted signs. It was fun. But yeah, it was just cool to be able to hang out. Like we were saying, the community's been really friendly, but to be able to hang out on a more personal level and get to know people and do some problem solving, which was, yeah, it was really nice.
Excellent. Did you guys take part in this at all? Do your own thing?
No, Sarah, for those of you who know her, AWS, co-founder Arynn Crow, Matthew undersells, like she's like everywhere she goes, like any country, any city, like, and so the fact that you actually beat her team is remarkable. No, so Sarah had her enclave go off, and I was with other identity people. There was a fun Eddie Pro thing going on, and going around and seeing everybody. So it was a good time.
What's the best thing you guys have eaten while you've been here? Because I think Las Vegas is world class for food.
I had a pork roll at Momofuku last night, which I'd read about online, and it lived up to the hype. Yeah, it was really, really nice.
That's good.
I got takeout from Din Tai Fung, and I got some the pork buns that were pretty amazing.
Jim, what about you?
It was at the Wynn Buffet, so there were a lot of things that were on that buffet that were excellent.
And you're a buffet guy.
I'm a buffet guy.
Is it still Caesar's as the reigning champion? Because you were talking up
It's the reigning champion for seafood, but I think and actually the Wicked Spoon over at the Cosmo, they've got some really good dishes so that's my thing actually at buffets. Like, I think some people go in and it's like competitive eating. I paid $90. I need to eat $90 in crab legs. That's not my approach. My approach is I want to have $90 worth of enjoyment. So I might have a piece of pizza. I'm going to eat a lot of desserts.
Wait, Jim, can I just seafood buffet and landlocked state? I'm struggling a little with that. Like,
airdrop it in.
I get that. I know that. I know it's true. I know there are airports.
They probably fly it in for some other country.
For sure. But I have a hard time with seafood and landlocked states. Add buffet to it. I don't know.
I did for a while. I used to take sushi in St. Louis, but yeah,
Are you immortal?
Anywhere you go in the United States or Canada, there's many sushi restaurants and they're world class, and there's no fish living anywhere close by, but there is FedEx.
The thinking about it, there's probably the freshest seafood in Vegas than almost anywhere else in the country.
It's entirely.
And they have ice that they put it on, so that keeps it totally.
What is this
witchcraft? What about you guys? What's the best thing you guys eaten here?
Well, now I know we made the right awardee choice because my favorite restaurants in Vegas are Momofuku and Din Tai Fung. I went to Din Tai Fung last night and Momofuku tonight, so those are my picks.
Right.
Maybe it's been the people rather than
You ate people.
what I. No, I did not eat people. It was the people I was at dinner with. But we did. There's one here in the hotel. I think it's Cathedral or something like that. And they had there was fish. The fish dish that was actually quite spectacular. So that was my enjoyment out of that one. So.
Did you get the dessert where it's like a little Klondike bar on top and you break it? Right.
Now I need to go back.
They've got a commercial that they run over and over again for the restaurants, and the head chef eats that during the commercial.
Now I have to go back.
Yeah, you have to go back now just for that.
You guys all like fancy stuff. I had the best curly fries. Proper Eats Food Hall. It was so simple, but they were fresh. Like right over here.
I know where Proper Eats is. I'm saying I'm going to.
Oh, it was the chicken, the soul chicken.
Oh, the Korean one.
Yes.
Yes.
And it was it's really good.
I think we can all agree that curly fries taste better than regular fries, but no one can explain why.
It's the curl.
Yeah, but say more.
Yeah, it adds a flavor profile.
I see.
Can't get to a straight food. All right, we got silly, but this is why we have fun at the end of the show. Anything else you want to bring up, or should we
I
wrap
don't
things
know,
up?
Ian, did you say what your?
Oh, yeah, Ian.
Best bite. I'm gonna change it up. We had a wonderful bottle of vintage champagne last night at dinner, and it was absolutely
All right,
lovely.
share, what'd you have?
A Mark Cabrera 2018, and I'm probably mispronouncing his last name. And it was lovely. And I was with good friends, which was nice, in an incredibly loud place. That is the one thing, and I will admit, maybe I need to, get off the lawn here a little bit. It's a little bit harder now when it's like really loud Vegas restaurant with weird acoustics. Have you noticed that they all have weird acoustics? And so I could at least focus on my champagne, and that was great.
I'm with you. It's sometimes hard to hold a conversation with that stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you so much for being on the show. Congratulations. on
Thank you so
winning
much.
Thank you.
And being here, and the pinnacle of your career has been on this podcast. We hope you'll come back.
It's all
Maybe
that
so
so
far.
far.
Yeah,
There
come
will
on.
be bigger things coming.
We hope so, for sure.
Impossible.
Come back. Maybe next time we're at a conference together, we can do like what's changed, since then. Digital Identity Advancement Foundation, DIAF.link. We'll have links in our show notes so people can find out more information, contribute. This is the result of people contributing to foundations and nonprofits and things like that to get people out to have these conversations. And hopefully people enjoy that out there who are watching and or listening. So you can visit us on the web, idacpodcast.com. Jim will slap me in the back of the head if I don't mention YouTube. youtube.com/@IDACpodcast. If you go to our website, everything's like there too. Mastodon at IDAC Podcast at InfoSec.exchange, Twitter, X, whatever it's called by the time you see or hear this, at IDAC Podcast. Connect with us on LinkedIn. We'll have links in our show notes for everything we talked about today, including LinkedIn profiles. So people reach out and connect and keep growing this community. So with that, we'll kind of leave it for this one. Thanks everybody for watching and or listening. And we'll talk with you all in the next one.
Thanks for having us on.
You've been listening to Identity at the Center. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit the website at identityatthecenter.com. See you next time on Identity at the Center.